Hi, this is Magan Chen. This is a channel about speech therapy tips. And today we're going to be talking about numbers. All right, today 1 to 10 numbers. So this will be useful if you have a child who doesn't have speech yet, but who has a real interest in numbers, likes to point to numbers, likes to look at numbers or listen to number songs and so forth. All right. Or if you have a child who is just starting to use speech and can say the numbers, but the numbers are not clear. Okay, so I love working with numbers because it's a good opportunity to also share with parents how speech develops. You want to know from 1 to 10, what are the sounds that are easier for a child and what sounds may be more difficult for a child, so that you start with the easier sounds, obviously. Okay, so let's take the first scenario. Just recently, I was working with a little girl who has no speech, but who has a real interest in numbers and loves to take mommy's hand and point to the different numbers. Okay, so FYI, well, of all the numbers 1 to 10, right, the easiest sound to say, developmentally speaking, meaning that as a child develops, all right, the easiest sounds would be what we call vowel sounds, A, E, I, O, U. Okay, so the number 8 is usually the easiest to say because you don't really have to worry very much about tongue positions or lip positions and so forth. Right, as long as you can make the sound at your vocal cords and you've got the right shape for the mouth, 8 is usually easiest. So what we would do is to actually, for me, you can work with a number puzzle, right, or work with numbers, with a book and so forth, or with a video. And what we would do is to actually say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then pause there. So for a child who is very familiar with the sequence as expecting 8, right? If you don't say 8 and nobody says 8, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the silence, the child is going to try to come up with the sounds and fill in the blank. All right. So once she says, makes a sound. Now it's not, it's quite likely that the first time the child tries it is not going to come out as a clear 8. Right, maybe it's just it's a sound like that. All right, but we interpret it as 8 and reward the child. Great, all right, okay, it's 8. Then we continue 9, 10, and so forth. All right, so the idea is to pause at 8. Do not say 8, and then let your child actually come up with a sound. Ideally, come up with the word, of course. All right, to say very clearly 8. All right, why are you not saying 8? All right, for the child to actually say 8 and then reinforce it, praise the child and repeat it again. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's 8. All right, mommy forgot or daddy forgot, whatever. All right, and then you continue. So from there, because that's the easiest sound, and then we can move on to other numbers. Okay. All right, what about if your child is already saying 1 to 10, but the sounds may not be very clear? Okay, so let's talk about the other sounds. So the first one, 1. Okay, this one sometimes is tricky more because when children can't manage this, they're likely to say man, but, something like that because they can't manage the movement. All right, I talk about how very often children need speech therapy because for other peers, for other children their age, it may be a very small step, right? And we don't realize that it could be actually quite a big step for a child who has difficulty. And for 1, for example, for us, maybe it sounds like just a word. Okay, it's a very simple, small step to us, but actually it requires a couple of different lip movements. So you need to go from like a rounder lip to 1. You need to be able to round your lips. Okay, and this is also the same sound or the same movement that you need if you're trying to teach your child to say, something like requesting and say, I want juice, or I want chips, I want. All right, it's the same sound, 1, 2, 3, and I want. Right, it starts the same way. So just for you to know that if your child is having difficulty starting with the 1, all right, quite often it may be because of this particular movement. So what can you do? You can actually emphasize the sound a little bit more when you're teaching. So rather than just saying, okay, say after me, say 1, 2, 3, all right, 1, to really slow down, emphasize, get a mirror so you can see the mouth movements and so forth. All right, 1, so the lip rounding is required. Okay, after that, 2. All right, 2 starts with the letter T sound. T, t, t. So a child needs to be able to have the tongue in the T position, plus also be able to blow out. Okay, I don't tend to talk about the tongue position a lot with children, more because, you can't really see the tongue in the mouth anyway. Even while I'm doing this, you can't really see my tongue movements. So I tend to emphasize more of the air coming out. So what you can do is to actually take your child's hand, right? So this will be not the, your hand, but your child's hand, and actually say chew and emphasize and blow a little bit harder so your child can actually feel the air coming out. All right. Quite often it's not necessarily just the way you teach, but just the fact that you're emphasizing, and because you're slowing down, you're making it slower, louder, and clearer. It will really help the child in terms of trying to do something different as well. If we do something different, it's likely the child will do something different as well. Okay, so again, we work with quite a number of my students where once a parent takes the child's hand and allows, and kind of like it says the two into the child's hand so that he or she can feel the air movement. Again, you're on the right track. All right, very often a lot of these things I talk about, it doesn't mean that it may work straight away, but you want to take baby steps so that you're moving in the right direction and you're building up the awareness and helping the child to, make the small little changes and move in the right direction. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, please do not worry about saying THR, correctly. All right, you've got TH, you've got R, and in terms of the child's development, those sounds are all quite difficult with 3. Okay, for some adults, even those sounds may be difficult to manage. So don't worry too much about it. I would tend to emphasize 3, the fact that there's an E sound. Okay, and then moving on, we have 4. Okay, we've got 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, these begin with letter F, letter S, and these are all, again, blowing sounds. All right, that's why, emphasizing how you feel the air coming out. 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, emphasizing those would help. Also encouraging your child to do activities such as blowing bubbles, blowing cotton wool. We've got some hot food, hot soup to blow on it and so forth. All right, so those are all blowing sounds. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, and then of course we've got the easiest sound that we talked about just now, 8, and then moving on 9. All right, 9. Okay, this one's a little bit easier for you to see even visually. So if I'm saying 9, you can see 9. This one, that's what I mean by having the tongue movement. That's how we produce all the different sounds. When you can say 1 to 10 clearly and you hear them as 10 different sounds or words, is because each one, I'm actually producing the right tongue movement and the mouth movements. All right, so for 9, as you can see, this one, you really need the tongue to be lifted up in the right position. Okay, so sometimes I just emphasize, again, just as a baby step, just to emphasize and just move the tongue a little bit. All right, so that you help your child to realize that, okay, I should be focusing on moving my tongue as well. 9 and then 10. So 10, we're back to the T sound, with the one where you feel the air sound. All right, so hopefully that's given you a better idea of how, when you're working with numbers, which is a topic that a lot of children find really a lot of exposure to, a lot of interest, because they always hear 1 to 10. All right, it's always the same way. So they get a lot of practice hearing it. They're very familiar with it, and they like the comfort of being able to say it. So now that you know more about how you produce the sounds, hopefully it makes it a little bit easier for you to teach your child. All right, if you've gotten something out of this, please like, share, and subscribe, or you can comment below as well. And I will see you in other videos. Thank you very much.